In this video, we'll consider some Excel functions in a very simplistic manner, I might say. We'll be considering scenarios, solver, conditional formatting, and bits and pieces, really. We'll start off by considering scenarios. Scenarios are sets of values that we can plug in and see the effect. Let's see what we mean. Take this where the company has a sales of 6 and cost of 4, and we want to work out the profit. Well, we can do a simple subtraction here. But let's consider two scenarios. If we go to our data and then what if analysis and then scenario manager. We want to add a scenario, so click on add, and we'll call this one our best scenario by changing cells, these two cells here, the sales and the costs. Click OK. Now, best we might have quite a large profit, quite a large sales, and not much costs. And that's our best scenario. Let's try another one. Oh, we'll add, this time we'll make it a worst scenario by changing the same cells, B1 to B2. But this time we'll have, say, quite a bit of cost, quite a bit of, not much sales. And we might even have costs that are going to be bigger than the sales. Then we wish to try them out. We can try out the best scenario or the worst scenario by clicking on worst and then clicking show that. Then we've got a choice of whether we can keep these scenarios as solutions or not. But you can see they're just a way that we can plug in sets of values and try them out. A what if situation. They're groups of data that we can plug in and see the effect. We'll now take a look at solver. Solver is very much like goal-seek. You might remember how we used goal-seek. We wanted to make this value 9 by changing this value here. And solver came up with the answer, not surprisingly, that the value was 3. So we proceeded to change one variable only to get the desired result of 9. Let me just return those to their original values. What we're going to do this time is to try and get a value of 9 by changing both of these this time. We have to have some constraint, and this time the constraint is that this one has got to be equal to this one to achieve 9. Well, you could do that in your head, and that would be 4.5 to achieve a value of 9. But let's get solver to do that. You'll notice that I've got a solver up the top right-hand side here. But that might not appear. It has to be an add-in. So let's see how we would get our add-in. To make sure this solver appears on our ribbon, we need to go to the options and then the add-ins. And at the bottom we've got Excel add-ins. We can click on Go down here, and you'll see it's checked at the moment. You'll need to check that yourself to make sure that that solver appears on the top right-hand side. So now that we've got our solver, let's try and solve the problem. Remember, we're trying to make this 10 into a 9 on the condition that these two are equal. So click on my solver and set objective, well, that's already filled in for me, which is, no, it's not. So that's this cell here is our objective cell to a value of, well, that's already filled in from previously, to a value of 9 by changing cells, and the cells that we want to change are these two cells here, C2 and to C3. That should be enough to solve it. And it says, there's an error somewhere. Let's take a look. C1 to C2, C3 has got to have a value of 9. I forgot something. I forgot to put in the constraint. And the constraint is that they're equal. A bit silly of me. So the constraint is that this one here has got to be equal to this one here. So I can click OK. And then my constraint has appeared here. One could be double the other, might be a bit more interesting. But for the moment, they're the same. So if I solve it, you can see that they're both 4.5. And I can either keep it or restore it to the original. I think I'll just keep it for the moment. That's my solution for solver. Let's take a look now at conditional formatting. We'll do it in a very, very trivial way, but just to give you the idea. I can find my conditional. These are not always easy to find on the ribbon, so I go through the Home tab and then conditional formatting. So I can click on that, and I'll take the simplest possible conditional formatting, a greater than rule. So I'll click on this greater than. Format cells that are greater than 10, shall we say, with this color here, which is good enough for me, light red with whatever. So I'll click OK. That means now that if I type into that cell something which is bigger than 10, it goes all those various colors. And if I put something which is less than 10, you'll see it return to the default. Because you could have another one there to format it a different color if it was less than 5, for example, less than 10, for example. Data validation. Data validation will only allow us to have certain values. If we look on the data ribbon, and then in this data tools group, we have data validation here. So if I click that, data validation, I'd like to have just integral whole number values. Let's say just between the numbers of 1 and 5. Now these are the only numbers that I'm allowed to enter. So I'll click, well, before I click OK, I want to have an error alert, something which is going to appear if on my message box, if the data is not input correctly. So I'll click OK. Now if I put a number which is between those limits, 4 and 5, everything is fine. But if I try to put something outside, then I get an error message telling me that I can't enter that particular bit of data. Let's consider names. We wish to name this range here. Well, there is a way of doing it like this. If we go through formulas, and then we can define a name, and then put the name of the name in here, and so on, and you can edit it from there. But I'll show you an easier way of doing it. I want to give it the name. I'll click in this name box, and I'll type the name that I'm going to give it, any old name, but make sure you press enter, and don't click away somewhere after you've done that, because it just won't enter it. But now, quite conveniently, we can refer to it. For example, if we want to add those somewhere on our sheet, then we can put in it like this, and you can see it's referring in blue to that particular name, which is quite clever. I can never remember whether I'm supposed to put inverted commas around the eds or not, but no inverted commas, and then we can just click OK, and that adds them up. And of course, we can go and edit those names through here, through the name manager, and then edit it, delete it, change it, the range, and that sort of thing. I'll leave that to you to investigate. But I use names quite a bit. For example, if I've just got a value in here, I can give that the name X, and then press the Enter key, and then in here I can do a bit of mathematics by 2 times equals 2 times x, and that gives me the value. So it's quite easy to read. I'll just take a look at that actually. If I just do control graph, that shows me all of my formulas. That was a tip for you. Control graph, the graph being at the very top, almost left of the keyboard, like an apostrophe, and toggle it back again, and that shows back to normal. If you try and name a range R, you get into bother. Not sure why. I think it's reserved for the correlation coefficient or something or other. But if you do try and name it as R, I think it tries to put an underscore in for you. No, it goes crazy. So just don't use R, that's all. X, Y, Z, they're all fine.